Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are having a wonderful week so far. Welcome, of course, to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, Gunpla, and gaming. I'm your host, Stephen Bayless, aka Midnight Hatter, and joining me, as always, the Blue Gamer Gundam Explainer, Adam Blue. Hey, man, how you been?
Been good. You know what? I'm still waiting for announcement of Hathaway 2 US release, so we're still here waiting.
They're still
Uh,
posting about Guns N' Roses. I
yeah,
saw on Twitter they posted another thing that was like, "Oh yeah, in collaboration with Guns N' Roses, we did this."
and then collaboration of what? Westerners looking around like, "What am I supposed to put my money in?" It's like, um, no, but, I did see G-Quux is gonna be on Netflix or something. Might only
That's
be
pretty
Japan, though.
exciting.
Yeah.
I like when they take certain series and, like, kinda bounce them between streaming services in case you're not the kind of person that has every streaming service. I know I
Well,
don't. Which streaming
nope.
services are you on currently?
I'm on HBO Max because it comes with AT&T and then Amazon because of Amazon Prime.
There you go.
That's really it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and of course, yeah, I'm on Amazon as well. I didn't realize that HBO Max came with AT&T, and T, and I have an AT&T phone,
Oh,
so I kinda feel like a dummy for not really realizing
un
that.
unless it's the internet. We have the phone and internet with AT&T, so it might be something to do with that.
That
Yeah,
would do it for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of kind of exciting Gundam stuff going on right now. Obviously, my intro video is the G Generation Eternal skins, like the home animations that you get for
Oh,
getting
yeah.
the max level upgrade level breaks, upgrade breaks, whatever they're called, on the ultra rare units. So big fan favorite dropped last week, 8th MS team.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And so you can get a super secret rare, easy 8, and Goof. I actually managed to get the ultra rare version of the Goof, so the one that comes with the UR, Norris Packard. I had just enough pulls that I got it randomly, so, um,
Is there an ultra rare Easy 8?
there is. Yeah, that was one of the launch ones,
I
is
think I
sure.
have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then because that was just a good one. Again, fan favorite. I mean, if you're someone that likes Gundam, you see Gundam. You can't lose with it with MS Team or 8
Exactly.
MS Team. I hate to cut you off, but by the way, have you heard? Oh, 08 or 8th.
So I've always said 8th. You
Yeah.
I don't
I
wanna I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but I
I
think that you
think I
might have been
have.
the first person that said, "Oh, wait, MS team" to me.
Oh, to you? I know I've always said 08th MS Team just because when I was looking it up,
When you read
like,
it.
it well, not just that, but, the Japanese, it's pronounced that way, or I guess the when it's translated, it's 08th.
I never realized
So,
that.
I almost feel like, though, I should just be saying 8th.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I honestly don't know the answer to that one, but,
Yeah, exactly.
it
That was
it
kind of
is like I said, it's one of the
it's
most popular shows. I think that it, as well as 0083, as far as UC side story Gundam shows go, are the most, fan troped of them all, if that makes sense. So, like,
mhm.
everyone who watches 8th MS Team says, "Oh, it's Vietnam War, but with Gundams," and then everyone who watches 0083 says, "Oh, it's Top Gun with Gundams." It's like the most Reddit tier, early 2000s, everybody just parrots the same exact opinion. It makes me want to go back and visit these shows, like, kind of in depth, and
Oh,
to be fair, 8th MS Team was the 2nd Gundam DVD set that I bought when I first got into Gundam. The first DVD set I bought was Zeta Gundam, and it was like a bootleg copy that I got on eBay, but then, like, I bought the official 8th MS Team DVD, so that was, like, the 2nd
8th
Gundam
MS Team.
property that I bought the DVDs, because obviously, you and I are both kind of like physical media guys where it's
Yeah,
like, we know that these things are gonna come and go, just like we were talking about with, G-Quux. It's like, well,
yep,
if you're not on Amazon Prime, now you're not gonna be able to watch it anymore. You have to go to Netflix, whatever.
yeah.
So, physical media is always a big deal. 8th MS Team would it made enough of an imprint on me that it was the 2nd series that I ever bought. I wanna go back and revisit it and see if there's anything more there than just Vietnam with Gundams. Do you know what I
I
mean?
I think you should do yeah, you're dissecting Gundam because even you just, dissecting the dialogue and it depends again who's writing the dialogue. This is different than, Tomino, but I wonder, because do you remember one time we talked about how, like, we thought maybe 8th MS Team isn't as good as we think?
Yeah, I mean,
We
I
were
think it to a certain degree, I feel like it's a little overrated, especially among Western audiences. I think Japanese audiences love 8th MS Team, but not to the same degree as Western audiences
right.
kind of, like, overhype it.
Like, Requiem for Vengeance is based on that, and they even had the designer. So, yeah, I
Exactly.
do think you doing a dissecting Gundam on that would be actually pretty cool.
Yeah, we might have to dig into that one and see
Yeah,
if there's anything more beyond it because and again, if you guys haven't watched it, definitely go back and check out my Witch from Mercury video from a couple
yeah,
weeks ago because I feel like viewing The Witch from Mercury as a compilation of Shakespearean allegories makes it a much more enjoyable watch and you kind of get an idea for what they were going for even if they
yeah.
may or may not have fulfilled those thematic ideas that they were trying to achieve. Um, and that was why I made that video is I was like, there's something here that I think a lot of people are overlooking because of like the cultural impact and the Twitter
Right.
discourse. So yeah, I really
Really good
enjoyed
point.
making that video.
Because, like, yeah, that cultural impact is just like this generation's kind of reflection on those kind of core social like Shakespeare, it was a high regard to write about these social or a play on these social situations. People really
Yes.
get into that. But then when that's agenda driven, even if for a good way, and not an ignorant way, people fight back, push back.
Yep.
And so another thing, yeah. So would you say maybe if you were to do a dissecting Gundam on 8th MS Team, the way you did Witch Mercury, would you do it like is 8th MS Team a Vietnam War film? Is it a war film in general? I mean, is are you thinking along those lines?
Definitely. I would try
Yeah.
to draw parallels between it and a lot of the popular war films that we know and love, like Platoon and Apocalypse Now,
Yeah.
and, like, those types of films that really evoke that sense. Because I mean, spoiler alert, I don't think that it does. I don't think that 8th MS Team captures that same
Right.
theme. Obviously, Shakespeare, it's got the Romeo and Juliet angle because you've got, um,
Yes.
lovers that are on opposite sides of a war, so there is a bit of that to it. There's
Mm,
also a bit of, like I don't know if it's like a transhumanist body horror element to it, just in the way that Ina talks about her body and the way that, like, her brother uses her. It's like a
oh, okay.
very there's something,
I mean,
nefarious in that.
even to show her pregnant at the end kinda speaks to that because we're actually physically seeing how her body has transformed, but by someone else, like, that's interesting.
Yeah, and which is fascinating because obviously there's so much cultural context around that and, bodily autonomy and self-ownership, and it's like, did Ina ever truly achieve that, or did she just change owners from her brother to Shiro?
And I wonder if by looking at each of the character and because it's a series that had more time to do this, by looking at each of the characters' kind of background motivations, is there maybe a commonality between them all that has something to do with trying to gain control of themselves? Because they all had kind of went through something.
Yeah,
Even Shiro himself, where he's not in control of what the Federation higher ups, you know, wanted. Yeah, so um
yeah. The
yeah,
and just the way that, I think one of the most interesting things about 8th MS Team is towards the end of the series when the, like, head commander is trying to get each member of the team to turn on Shiro.
right. I think
Like,
that
that is such and there's the flashback scenes to
yep.
where it's like, "Hey, we can make all this stuff go away for you if you just turn in your boss for sleeping with the enemy," and
It
and
it's
and
very
it represents a real dilemma for each one of them.
Right, and I totally forgot about that because that's almost like another tone shift. It almost like this does multiple tone shifts, and I don't know if it's to serve what it's trying to do story-wise, or we can tie it all together because it's interesting how dark but whimsy it can be at the same time.
What
Mm.
what I think would have made the story more interesting, and you never watched Firefly, did you?
I did. I
You did?
loved Firefly.
Oh, so you heard it's coming back as an
Yes,
animated series.
yes, I heard about that,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm excited to see how that turns out,
Me too.
but one of the best things that I think ever happened in Firefly was, like, a callback where Jane, played by, Baldwin, what's his name?
Yeah,
Uh,
I forget,
I
um
forget his first name, but, he's not one of the Baldwin brothers, but
right.
his name is Baldwin. Um, he, like, it's in the 2nd episode when Nathan Fillion says, like, "Hey, how come you didn't turn me in?" And he goes, "Oh, money wasn't good enough." And he goes, "Well, what happens when it is?" And he goes, "Well, that's gonna be a very interesting day." And it does happen later in the series, like, that was one of the most perfect callbacks because then
Mm.
he does try to sell them out, and it becomes this huge deal, and it's like,
Yeah,
"Man,
the
a like, after all of this, you still tried to sell me out,"
that's
and
why the show was good.
it was so good, man. Like, I think that maybe not Sanders, but what if Karen had been the one to turn on Shiro? And maybe, like, if she had turned him in, it didn't amount to anything, but it was just, like, her weakness, like, she was the one that didn't hold out. I don't know,
Yeah.
something
No,
like
that
that.
is a really good point because they do a good job sometimes of a character did something they shouldn't have. I think of, the girl that starts with N in Witch from Mercury. It's
Oh,
kinda
Nika.
not yeah, exactly. Kinda put under a situation where they have to turn on people, but did you really want to? You know, like, I feel like when that's done well, it really shows and highlights the story.
Yeah.
'Cause that's almost like building it's almost like the villain. You know how a lot of shows and stories are really big on trying to build up the villain, but having you first, like or go back and then, oh, feel sorry for the villain. Whereas I feel like that character, Nika, or what we were talking about with Karen, like, in a way, it's almost like here's that antagonist situation that can happen, but it's not like they you know, again, if you're, like, under orders and that's your weak it's not that you don't like the person, it's just that you're
Right.
just following orders and doing what you're supposed to do.
I think
Um,
that we have in a lot of entertainment culture, there are not a lot of times where you see a very sympathetic character do something bad because they're forced into that position, and then it's like, "Oh, man, I don't wanna hate them." Like, you
yeah,
see a lot of characters that are bad that, like you said, it's like they're justifiably bad. Like, when you look at Anakin Skywalker, you're like,
yeah,
"Ah, well, yeah, he shouldn't have done all that stuff, but, like, I get it kinda because of the visions and, like, his mom dying and stuff like that." But then when you have a character as genuine as Nika or as loyal as Karen, and then they do get pushed to their limit and they break, it can be a really fascinating story element, and it evokes something in us that, like, I don't think we're used to feeling. It's like it's a sense of betrayal because you're
yeah.
like, "Man," like, you
Well
get the Tyra Banks thing, you're like, "I was rooting for you. We were
oh,
all
yeah.
rooting for you."
Yeah.
Like,
But I think what you're speaking on too is almost like how wrestling works with
yeah,
like heel like and I think that's why it works because they're doing it's almost like a soap opera, you
yes.
know, but in context that is very engaging. Um, and so I think that's why but that's not done in stories a lot because of that sort of context of wrestling is kind of quick. It's super fantasy, like in terms of week to week, what's going on. Whereas in a show or a movie, that would almost be it would almost seem like a rug pull if it wasn't thought out enough. Like, you could easily just the Nika thing like, a lot of people I remember when that episode came out, a lot of people were just hated on Nika, and I was like, "But I I feel bad, actually." So, it's
Yeah.
interesting how some people read those situations, and I guess the storyteller can't win them all. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a good story is, not to not to sound too much like a Ryan Johnson, but a good story is a story that divides people. Like,
Hmm,
if
okay.
now, you don't want a story where everyone hates it, but if you have a story where 50% of the people love it and 50% of the people hate it, then you've done something interesting. Maybe
That's
it's not
true.
right, maybe it's not good, but you've done
Right.
something interesting.
That is a good point. I agree with that. And speaking of doing interesting things, I don't know.
What
Was
a
that is that the
what a
right
segue.
time? I don't know.
So, as I announced last week, I did, um it's been set up, it's right over here behind me. We've got the Anycubic Cobra X 3D printer. It is the latest and greatest from Anycubic. It's probably the most user-friendly and affordable, like, entry-level multicolor FDM printer, and I've already done some amazing stuff with it. Like, over the weekend, I printed a kit card. I might have shown this off on the channel before, but there's a YouTuber by the name of AgeBiz, Agebiz. Look him up because he's done some really cool stuff with multicolor printing. He's done these,
Oh,
like, military vehicle kit cards where it's like they print in black, green, and white, and so it's like you print like a little Jeep. I did the same thing for my daughter. I printed her like a little pink, white, and black tired Jeep, and it's like a little kit card. You just pop it off the plate, assemble it. I wish I had a photo of
yeah,
it
and
here.
I looked up the oh, is that what is that?
So this is actually the waste product from that print. So interestingly enough, it creates a, what they call a purge tower. So when you change colors going through the filament nozzle, they'll come through and extrude a little bit of the blended filament into a little tower. So it did generate this extra
Oh,
waste from
I get it.
changing colors so
Yeah.
often, but it's kinda cool. It's like a little, I don't
Purge
know.
I love the name Purge Tower. Sounds like we're playing a video game. It's co-op. That's where the aliens, are infest I don't know.
I love it.
Uh, so I was looking at that AGP Biz, and are you saying it was like it almost like printed a runner?
Yeah. It's like a Gunpla
Wow.
runner that you snip the parts out and you assemble a little Jeep, and it's
That
awesome.
is cool, man. That is
And like I said, it prints in colors, so everything's, like, kind of
yeah.
pre-shaded, so that's a
So
pretty cool thing.
how much is that do you think that's how they make Gunpla, or is that, like, completely different process?
I would say it's inspired by, but not necessarily the same, because obviously injection molding is the king when it comes to Gunpla. So what they do, and what you probably noticed this when you've built some high grades. Do you ever notice how, like, sometimes you have the right and left leg, and they usually have like the same parts on them, and so you'll have like a runner that's like D1 and D2, and D1 is like an L shape, and then D2 is like a full square, and D2 is gonna have, like, some other stuff attached to it. So, it's interesting because I think the way that they lay out the molds when they're filling, like, in doing the injection molding, is they kind of have, like, hot swaps where you can connect up to 4 mold boxes to
Oh.
make 1 runner and then inject plastic into each one. Like, have you ever noticed sometimes, I wish I had a runner on hand that I could show you. Have you
I know
ever
you're
noticed
talking
how,
about.
like, sometimes you have 2 colors that are, like, connected by, like, 1 little tab,
Yep.
and it's almost like 1 tab wraps around the other one?
Yeah. I know what you mean. So
Like, that is obviously, they do an injection mold, and it's like, "We made a white runner, and now we're gonna do the transparent, like, the beam effect runner, and it's gonna be attached to it, so we're gonna place it on the rack connected to it, inject the clear plastic, and then they're fused together."
so at the end of the day, 3D printing is like inside out injection molding.
That's a really, really good way of looking at it.
Okay, just and then I guess, 3D printing is very consumer driven, even though at scale corporations use it, but I guess not necessarily to print Gunpla yet. Like, I guess maybe because all the tooling and manufacturing is in place, they're still gonna do injection molding, but I wonder if sort of the 3D way is the future. I don't know.
There's probably something there, as long as there's a way to mitigate the waste, because I
Ah,
would say
okay.
that 3D printing does generate a lot more waste than injection molding does, because
I
whatever is not injected into the mold, like, that's still good material. Whereas and it's interesting, I actually saved some of the, some of the
Oh,
support material from my latest print that I'm gonna be showing off here in a second, just to show you guys, like, how much waste is generated by some of these prints. Um, but yeah, let's get into that. Let's start today's topic, which is 3D printing for Gunpla and miniatures, FDM versus resin, now that I can provide an authoritative decision on it.
yeah.
So, I did put together a little slide deck. It's not super professional, but, hopefully you guys will get some use out of it. So I've narrowed it down to 4 key differences between resin and FDM, and I've been printing on resin for about 4 years now. FDM, I only just started because I got this Anycubic X, and already I can tell you that there's some differences. In fact, before we go much further, I have been printing out some of our Magna deck boxes. So these are gonna go they're gonna be live on the site again here in the next week or so. Fascinatingly enough, this box took 3 hours to print.
Mhm.
The layer lines are very minimal. The fit is perfect. Everything about this is awesome. It's actually much more durable than the
Wow.
resin boxes that I was doing before. For context, the resin boxes, because of the size of the build plate of my resin 3D printer, I could only print one half at a time, which meant that I would have to print one half for 3 hours, the other half for 3 hours. Both of them would have to be treated with isopropyl alcohol. I would have to sand off any of the support marks and things like that. These guys, they come off the build plate ready to go. All we got to do is put the magnets in them. So
Love it.
I am really excited about this, and they print in whatever colors we want to print them in. I don't have to paint
Yeah.
them. So,
Ah.
added benefit there. I'm super excited about this, probably more than anything. And we're gonna be printing the MagnaDeck 3.0, which is the Temray
Ooh.
box,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Gundam learning computer,
Yeah.
which not only has a slot for your cards, but has a slot for your dice so that you can keep your HP markers. Yes, I still make Gundam card game accessories.
Hey, why not? No. Yeah, that's cool, man.
So here is the overview of FDM versus resin. And I've got these are the two printers that I actually have, the Anycubic Cobra X, which is, like I said, it's their newest model. It does come out of the box standard. It can print in 4 colors slash 4 materials. That is going to be one of the things that we talk about this evening. And then I also have the Elegoo Mars 2 resin printer, which has been a workhorse for me for many, many years.
Yeah.
Even though it's one of like the more affordable, like entry level resin printers, that thing has been amazing for me. Here's the overall summary breakdown. If you want crisp panel lines, you're going to go resin. If you want durable parts, you're going to go FDM, aka filament. If you want both, you have to understand the trade offs between doing both. And that's what we're going to get into right now.
Alright.
Um, so, the detail comparison. This is the biggest difference between FDM and resin is that your typical layer height on an FDM print is limited to what the size of your nozzle is that extrudes the filament. Now, the smallest available nozzle right now is zero point 0.2 millimeters. Now, just for comparison's sake, I didn't even show these guys off yet. Before the show started tonight, I actually printed the same Gundam Assemble miniatures that we showed off on stream last week, one in resin, that's this black one, and one in FDM filament, that's this white one. So the white one, I actually printed at zero point 0.1 millimeter layer height, but because I still have the stock nozzle on there, the layer width is going to be a minimum of zero point 0.4 millimeters. So I don't even have, like, the smallest nozzle that you can get on there.
Huh.
Honestly, I am impressed that the layer lines do not show as well as they do on this guy. It's definitely you can definitely notice a difference between the level of detail that you get from resin versus
Yeah.
what I've got here, and the
But
reason for that being oh, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, what are, like, are you planning, for instance, to sand the FDM printed or paint? And maybe the paint itself would do enough to
There are a number of ways that you can smooth an FDM print, um, and these particular models that I've got in my hand were AI generated. Optimized for they're not optimized for either print, to be honest with you, and there are some defects to them. I would say none of them are unsalvageable, which is interesting. It's like so I've got the
mm,
Zeta Zaku's here. All 4 of these models, like I said, are salvageable. They do not have any, terminal defects, as it were. These are the Bawus
yeah.
in resin and FDM. Um, there's a number of ways to get a cleaner finish on your FDM prints. One is with not an acetone bath, but like an acetone soak, so to speak. So these are made out of
Mm,
PLA and acetone will evaporate them. So one of the things that you can do to smooth out your FDM prints is you soak some paper towels in acetone and you put them on the inside of a box and then you put that box around your print for maybe between 15 minutes and an hour. And what it's going to do is it's going to like slowly melt the outside of your print with the fumes
mm,
and it's going to make those layer lines kind of disappear. It's actually going to give it like a glossy finish. But the result of that is that you're also gonna lose details. So
mm,
what minimal details you were able to get are gonna be even more drowned out by the acetone, finish.
I see.
Like you said, you can sand it, but, like, with something like this, there's too many, like, very narrow surfaces. I think it would be too difficult to, like, sand individual parts. But for something like our deck box, I was actually impressed with the ability of the FDM printer to capture the panel lines that I designed, and this was completely
Yeah,
unsupported. Like, I didn't there was
have to
no
build
supports on here, like, this it actually captured the panel lines and everything quite well.
so
So
no pockmarks or anything from supports? And also, yeah, I mean, from here, like, you must have really dialed in those layer lines because I am not seeing any. I mean, they
yeah,
must
the only thing that I would say is that I need to invest in a new smooth print bed because I have a textured print bed, and you can
oh,
see that on the base of
yeah,
the box is like it's got like kind of a rough texture
rough
to it.
texture, yeah.
But
I can
honestly,
do that.
that is not a deal breaker for me, as
No,
far as this goes. And even if I were to do like an acetone, like detail up on this, I think it would still turn out okay because the details on it are so
right.
minimal that they're not gonna be wiped out by a little bit of acetone. Whereas something like these guys, the little miniatures, you're probably gonna lose, like, the entire face details.
Mm,
Um,
good stuff.
and so, yeah, as a result of that, you are gonna have visible layer lines when it comes to an FDM print versus a resin print where the typical layer height is 0.05 millimeters. So it's literally a fourth of, like you
Wow,
get
yeah.
75% more detail on a resin print if you were gonna do it mathematically. So very fine details, and it's smooth surfaces straight out of the printer. There are things that you can do, like, there's ironing, which is a thing you can do with an FDM printer, where you kind of go over the top surfaces of the model a couple of times with the hot nozzle to kind of smooth out the top so that you don't have, like, the stair stepping that goes on
Mm,
from doing, like, layer, 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 layer.
yeah.
So, yeah, overall, details, resin is gonna win 9 times out of 10, but, FDM has its benefits too, and for what it's worth, printing both of these minis, they were both printed at the same time, on the resin printer It was supposedly gonna take 4 hours and 20 minutes. It actually took almost 5 hours, and the FDM printer took 6 hours and 11 minutes. So it was really only like an hour difference in production
Wow.
time between the resin printer and the FDM printer.
I was surprised how long the FDM took, but I think it's because you had very thin layer lines. I'm sure that's whereas um, what about the card box? How long did that take again? Well, it was 3 hours
About 3
altogether.
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's interesting.
so the more you have on your print bed when it comes to an FDM printer, it's going to take longer because the print head has to travel around that time. Whereas with a resin printer, the entire bed gets printed at a single
Right,
time. Um, Now the flip side of that is that the resin print bed is about a fourth of the size of an FDM print bed.
right.
So you can't fit as much on it. So if I were to print 4 minis on an FDM printer, in theory, it would take about 11 hours.
Oh,
If I were to print 4 minis on the resin printer, in theory, again, it would take about 10 hours, but you're talking about I would have to switch them out. Like, this is set it and forget it. If I just run the FDM
oh,
printer, it's
yeah.
gonna go do its thing, whereas the resin printer, I'm gonna have to change out the bed, I'm gonna have to take the models off and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's even something with the FDM I think I saw where you can have it where if you're printing multiple things, like, it knows to, like, push off
That
and do the next thing. I've
That
never
is one
tried
of
it.
the coolest things that I've seen.
Yeah.
Now that wasn't one of the things that I have in the 4 main differences here, but that is one of the, like, I would say the benefits of an
Mm,
FDM printer over a resin printer. And again, I wouldn't say that this stream is like a endorsement of one over the other, but I don't know.
right.
You guys tell me.
Mm,
Let me know in chat if one sounds better to you so far.
yeah, I'm
So the
curious.
next thing, and this is a big, big one, is supports. The reason that supports are important is not just because of the fact that a model needs them, but also the purpose of supports between the two. So on an FDM printer, they are built up under the model. So these are tree supports that like actually like every layer they add another tree support that's going to hold up a piece of the model as it's printing. And really, they are designed to fight against gravity because every layer of filament is going to be tempted to sink down. And so, if you have like a 30-degree angle or more, you're going to want a support there to kind of hold it up. Resin's a little bit different because the model is suspended upside down and it's dipping into the resin liquid. And it's not fighting against gravity per se, but rather it is fighting against the suction forces of the FEP sheet. So essentially, when it comes to resin printing, you have your model and the build plate, and they touch this little plastic sheet. Light gets exposed onto them, and then that light is going to cure the resin, and every layer it has to snap away from the plastic sheet before it can press back down and say next layer please. And so if you don't have supports there to hold it, what might happen is you might have part of the model break off and it gets stuck to the support sheet. And then when the plate comes back down, you get the situation that I had, which is the plate will press that little piece of resin that cured and got stuck to the plate. It'll press it into your FEP sheet, put a hole in it, and then you're going to get resin leaking all over the
Oh, I
place.
remember yeah, you told me about that, yeah.
Yeah, that is what happened to me, is that I had a print fail, and because it kept printing, it kept pushing that little piece of resin that had cured to the FEP sheet, and it basically poked a hole in it, leaked resin everywhere. Terrible,
Ugh,
terrible time.
huh.
Now, when it comes to supports, it can actually be cleaner to remove supports from an FDM print than it can be a, for a resin print. So a perfect example. So here we go. We've got the bases of our miniatures here. I hope that you guys can see this. This is the FDM print. this was printed flat on the print bed, and so it's got that same texture that the deck box has on the top and bottom, where it's, like,
Yeah.
flat, but it's got a little bit of a texture to it. It kind of feels like a you know, like, it feels like a joystick from a PlayStation controller, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
dog nose.
Right.
Um, this, on the other hand, and again, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see it, but you can see all of the little support marks that were left in the resin from all of the supports that were holding it from snapping off and dripping into the resin. So all of this stuff has to be sanded off. Like,
Mm, I see. So there'd be more sanding,
there would
potentially.
be more sanding and more cleanup involved with the resin print than with the
Yeah,
FDM print, in theory.
I see.
Um, so yeah, and so resin supports are always going to leave contact points, whereas FDM, and this is where we're gonna get into some of the, like, interesting quirks about it, especially with the printer that I'm using, is because it has 4 different filament feeds. One of the things that a lot of makers have been doing lately is using multi-material in order to create supports that do not snap off, but rather just, like, fall off.
Oh, wow.
Um, so for instance, there is a support material that is called, oh man, what is it called?
Oh, but it's an actual material made specifically for the
It's
purpose of easier
it's an
cleaning of.
actual
Yeah.
material. It's actually an alcohol. It's like a
Oh,
PVA. It's like a polyvinyl alcohol. And what they do is they load it into this filament and it's your support material. And what's crazy is that it's water soluble. And so what you can do is you take your print after it's done, you dunk it in water, and the supports literally melt because the
wow.
support material is water soluble. Additionally, and this is less technologically sophisticated, but the different types of plastic filament that you can put in an FDM printer, say PLA versus PETG or ABS, uh, PETG and PLA do not bond together chemically. So, if you print your supports in PETG and your print in PLA or vice versa, you're basically not bonding your supports to the model, but rather they just kind of hold the model up. And then when you go to take it off, just falls off because
And
there's
that works?
nothing. Yeah.
Is there a risk, though, potentially? Or
It would
not really?
depend on what
Okay.
your support settings are because, like, let's say, for instance, your support setting was to just, like, hold one little end, like a perfect example.
The
So
wing?
let's say we've got this tail fin right here. Let's say we have one support that hits the bottom of the tail fin, and then it's supposed to fill itself out. If it were the same material, then it would be bonded strong enough that it would be able to support the entire tail. If it were a different material, you would probably want more supports up the way because as each layer prints, it's gonna start to sag.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
So cool stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah. FDM printing, although the detail is not as crisp as a resin printer, there's so many neat little tricks that you can do with it that,
It almost seems like it could be more user-friendly, beginner user-friendly to do FDM.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay.
So here are some photos
Oh,
of the
cool.
prints that we have here in front of us. So you see how kind of wasteful the tree supports are on these FDM prints. They
Yeah.
kind of on the print bed, they kind of create these rings that kind of go up and then support the individual, like the beam rifle sticking out or the shield or
Yeah.
what have you. Whereas on the resin printer, everything is suspended from the build plate and it just kind of pulls up. And so the supports are much thinner because they're not trying to like push against gravity. They're like I said, they're just resisting the pull strength of the FEP sheet. And as a result of that, these supports are honestly probably overkill. I probably didn't need this many supports. I just kind of
Mhm.
used the auto supports.
Okay.
But yeah.
Auto supports, wish life had that. I don't know. No, but, very fascinating because I actually didn't know they're almost very similar in a way, just reverse, kind of the gravity like you were talking about,
Yeah.
but it's like there's still that degree of, you can get a lot of detail out of the FDM, but there might be more work for the supports or whatever, like, if you really wanna make sure you have things that can kinda elevate out from the main body.
Yeah, and unlike with resin printing, where the object is to orient your model in such a way that you don't create any flat surfaces, it's almost like
Mhm.
the inverse for FDM printing. So,
Uh-huh.
for perfect example, let's look at my deck boxes here.
Yeah.
With the FDM printer, I printed it flat on the print bed, no supports, and it literally just did the entire base by itself, and then it just went around the loop, and that's how it built the entire model. When I print this in resin, I actually have to tilt it between 30 and 45 degrees. It's got supports up the line here, and the reason for that is that if I were to print on a resin printer, and it would be like this. So, like, this is the print bed, and this
Mhm.
is the model stuck to it. Every time it comes down and prints a solid layer on the FEP sheet, the tension of pulling that up is gonna make this
Oh,
start to sag and, like, bow downward.
interesting.
So, in order to prevent that, you never orient something so that it's flat parallel to the print bed. You always have to have it at least a 30-degree angle with supports on it, and that's why this prints with no supports on an FDM printer, but on the resin printer, I have to have, like, an entire field of supports that keeps this thing every time.
Yeah. Wow. And I remember I heard that, but I didn't really know why. And that's pretty fascinating because it almost seems like it's just a workaround for a bigger issue. It's like maybe
Isn't that everything?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Everything's a
It's like everything's
compromise.
really just a workaround.
Everything's a workaround. Um, so this is another one big one for me. And again, I think that this is one of the most important differences between FDM printing and resin printing is the post-processing period. Is FDM prints, once you take the supports off, if there are supports, again, in the case of this deck box, there are none. That's it. If you wanna sand it, if you wanna try and reduce lower layer lines, you can, but this is ready to go. No muss, no fuss. It's durable, like, it's perfect. These guys that come off of the the resin printer, they are trouble because
Mm.
first you have to take the supports off. Then you have to wash them in either isopropyl alcohol or acetone, or there are a couple of companies out there that make like a specialized resin cleaner, but otherwise you do have to wash all of the uncured liquid resin off of them. Um, and then you actually have to continue to cure them because they're not fully cured when they come off of the print bed. So these guys had to sit in front of a UV lamp for about an hour before they're truly done. Um, And even then, they still stink like acetone
Oh,
and IPA. So it's like there's a whole lot of extra work that goes into a resin print compared to your FDM prints. And so that's where it's like the summary is FDM prints are fast, minimal mess. The resin prints are messy. They stink. Obviously, lots of chemical smells. You've got to use gloves. You have ventilation. Um, there's there's probably 7 kinds of cancer that I'm gonna pick up from just holding
oh,
these things tonight, but the proof is that you get professional level results. So, um, there is, like there's a trade-off there, right?
yeah.
You know, do you want the ease of use or do you want the better final finished product?
I know, like, to me, it seems like, the FDM filament-based printing, I would just always go to, but I just remember, and I used to 3D print before I made this channel all the time, like, fun stuff. The the main thing, though, is some of the things I wanted to do would really require resin, like, if I wanted to make objects for my action figures, for, like, custom stuff, like, that it's way better to do that in resin. But I feel like FDM is better for actual functional stuff maybe, like, around your home
I would
or
say so for sure.
yeah.
Um, and I'm glad you brought that up because in my experience, and again, this is just my experience, I have sampled at least 10 different kinds of resin, and I've only worked with one type of filament, which is PLA. And in
Mm,
my experience, as far as durability goes, FDM printing way, way more durable. The resin is brittle, it snaps.
mm,
So like FDM printing is better for moving parts, it's better for joints, it's better for articulation. Um, Even though you're going to get better detail out of resin printing, it might snap on you. It's not gonna hold up to pressure. In fact, like, I guarantee you that if I apply the same amount of pressure to this tail fin on the Zeta Zaku on the resin version versus the PLA, that the resin version would snap off before the other
uh,
one did. Now the flip side of that is that because this is a thermoplastic, this is going to be a lot more heat sensitive than our resin print. So, one of my favorite products to use when it comes to making silicone like molds of 3D prints is Silinon, which is
mm,
a thermo activated silicone alternative. And so you melt the Silinot, you microwave it, and then you pour it over your part. And I've done this with Gunpla parts in the past and actually destroyed them because it got so hot that it melted the Gunpla. If I poured hot Silinot on a PLA part, it would melt it. If I poured hot Silinot on a resin part, it wouldn't. So
oh,
resin's gonna be a lot more heat resistant, but a lot more brittle, whereas FDM is gonna be a lot more sturdy, and it's gonna give you a little bit of flex, like, it gives you a little bit of play in the, like, you can bend the part without
yeah,
breaking it, but it also might melt on you. So,
interesting.
um, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And before people jump in the comments and start talking about, like, "Well, they make, like, rubber-like resins and blah, blah, blah."
Mm,
Here is where my disclaimer comes with that, because I have tried several rubber-like resins. In fact, I have another one that I'm going to sample because, again, I'm not giving up on resin printing at all.
yeah,
Um,
just another tool.
everything's a tool, right? Uh, just like the AI generated models that we 3D printed. So one of the things that I will say about any of the harder and rubber-like resins is that as you increase in the softness of the resin that you're 3D printing with, you also have to increase your cure time per layer. What that means is every layer that you have the print bed come down and cure a layer of your model, you have a certain number of seconds that you want to expose it to the light. My favorite, as far as detail retention goes, has been the Soraya Tech, navy gray ABS-like fast, which takes, like, 2.4 seconds per layer. It's quick, and it retains, like, the most possible detail. It's also one of the most brittle,
Mhm.
filaments or, resins out there.
Yeah.
So if I were to print, like, a ball joint, and I try to put that ball joint together, n either it's not going to fit, or it's going to go in, and it's gonna grind, and there's gonna be, like, powder that comes off of it.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to using rubber-like resins, you're talking about extending your cure time from, like, a 2.4 to, like, an 8 to 10-second cure time. The reason that that becomes a problem is that the longer you expose each layer of resin to light, you're gonna overcure it. And so what happens is that 3 millimeter peg and then the 3 millimeter hole that you designed to fit together, all of a sudden you have to design it to be a 5 millimeter hole with like a 2 millimeter peg because the resin has overcured and it doesn't fit the way that you designed it. With the FDM printer, I kid you not, the first thing that I printed was a replacement Tony for my daughter because I had originally printed her that, the tiger from K-pop Demon Hunters. I made her a Tony for her Tony box. It had magnets in the feet, and it had the Tony box NFC chip in the head. It cracked because it's resin, because it's brittle. Even though I painted it and I top coated
Mhm.
it and I did all the things, obviously a toddler can crack resin.
Yeah.
So I printed it in FDM, and what was amazing is not only did the Anycubic slicer allow me to place exactly where I wanted the cutouts for the magnets and the NFC sensor to go, but it was accurate down to point 0.3 millimeters to where I was able to create the cutout for the magnets and pop it right in the mold right as it was printing. So I had 2 pauses, is it paused right at the top of the feet where I put the magnets in, then it printed over top of them, and then it paused right at the top of the head. I put the NFC chip in, and it printed right on top of that. And so the whole thing is sealed in plastic, it doesn't move, it was a perfect
Dude.
fit. Like, do you understand? Again, I've been printing in resin for 4 plus years, and not once have I ever gotten something on the first try. This was
Dude,
the first print I did on the Anycubic Cobra X.
by putting in the magnets and the chip, it's so that's like next level. Not only were you printing, but you were printing to plan for it to pause, and I guess the system knows to pause, and then you then know, and then when you go to return, it's doing the same job. And
Exactly.
that is really cool, man. And so that, I guess, kinda speaks in a way to that, entry level beginner wanting to get into 3D printing, you
Yeah,
know?
again, it really just comes down to what you're trying to do and how you wanna do it, and I think that, the Cobra X, I would say, is far and away the best, it's the best entry level FDM printer I've encountered because I know a lot of people talk about, like, the Creality Ender 3, but that is a little bit more of like a tinker, like, you
Yeah,
kinda have to know
that's
what
the
you're
one I
doing.
have. And
Yeah.
no, and that
So
it there's a lot of calibration
oh,
setting up each time, and that's kinda why I slowly stopped.
yeah, man. The Cobra X, it auto levels the print bed every time. You have 4 filament feeds, so you can print in multiple colors, or you can just print, like, a different color. Like, one of the things about my resin printer is it's like, if I wanna change the color of resin, or even if I just wanna use a different material, I have to dump out the vat, I have to clean it out, pour in more stuff, like, it becomes a whole process. The FDM printer, it's ready to go. Um, I can put magnets in an FDM print. I can't put magnets in a
Yeah.
resin print because if I pause it, which I can do, it's just gonna
Oh,
hang upside down, and it's like, what am I gonna do? Like,
right.
super glue the magnets in and then have them print? Like, it's not gonna work. So, there's so many options available as a result of FDM printing that resin printing does not offer. Even if resin printing, I think, is a little bit easier in terms of the modeling side, and it
Mm,
delivers better detail.
yeah. So, yeah, both. Why not both, right?
Both.
As the verse says.
Yeah, ultimately, I would say if you're a Gunpla builder and you have the option, you really do kind of want to invest in both. And basically, your FDM printer is for structural articulated prints. What I would probably do is use FDM for the inner frame of a Gunpla, for instance. I designed last year a replacement inner frame for the SD cross silhouette models. That
Yeah.
works so much better on the FDM printer than it would on the resin printer. Um,
So many things you can go back to.
exactly. And so there's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna be kind of reviving here over the next couple of months because, a lot of the articulated models that I've designed, I can actually get much more reliable results on the FDM printer than I could on the resin printer. Now, the flip side of that is that because the resin printer delivers that better detail, I would almost kind of treat it like a real grade Gunpla, where the inner frame is FDM and then you have the outer armor plates in resin. And as
Hmm.
long as the male side of the connector, like the peg, is on the resin side and the female side of the connector, the hole, is on the FDM side. The FDM side is always gonna be a little bit more flexible and it's gonna have a little bit more play on it, and so you are gonna be able to connect a resin part to an FDM printed part. And that's always been my experience, is I've never had success creating a resin part that connects to another resin part. I've made, obviously, some conversion kits where you
Mhm.
can take resin parts and connect them to an entry grade model kit, but that's because the entry grade model kit is already plastic. It's not resin.
Yeah.
So there you go. Um, yeah, and a lot, again, it's just ease of use. Is like, man, this is dialed in. If I wanted to get articulated parts from resin, it would take so much testing and, like,
Yeah.
well,
Trial and error.
I've gotta redesign the part to be, like, 0.5 millimeters of clearance instead of 0.3 millimeters, and then I've gotta try exposure settings of, like, 2.8 seconds versus 2.9 seconds. It's like, there's so much calibration, like you said,
Mm.
with the, Ender 3. There's
Yeah.
so much calibration involved with trying to print articulated parts on a resin printer, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely fascinating. I mean, uh, I can again, my whole takeaway is I can't wait to see the projects you go back to that you had been working on.
For sure, I'm definitely gonna share, like, close-up photos of the details on these guys. Again, like I said, these Gundam Assemble figures are, like, all 4 of them have their qualities, and I think the one that turned out the best was the resin version of the Zeta Zaku. The FDM version of the Zeta Zaku, the wing, uh, was not supported and it snapped off.
Yeah.
The resin version of the Bawu, the wing was not supported and it created, like, this weird right-angled
Yeah.
thing. Ironically, the same wing on the FDM version of the
Oh,
Bawu was unsupported and kind of, like, folded in on itself.
yeah.
So, again, that's more of a reflection of the model design and not the particular print design. But all
Right.
4 of these, I think, would make great miniatures. They're easily repaired, like, with just a little bit of putty and stuff, so I'm definitely gonna paint them up and see how they turn out. Yeah, there's
Awesome.
so many cool things. I hope you guys have learned a lot from this and learned from my experiences.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what we do here.
Yeah, exactly. Man, this has been a journey, actually. Like, what you're showing us in this video, it's almost like this culmination of all this experimentation you've done, and, like, now you've got the tools, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, let me fumble around in the dark so that you
Yeah.
guys can walk into the light.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, thank you, Adam. I appreciate you joining me on this
Yeah,
journey
yeah.
of additive creation because honestly, I think that 3D printing, just like AI, I feel like these are the types of tools that allow guys like you and me to create in this space. Like,
Mhm.
because we don't have access to CNC machines and like injection
Yeah.
molding and stuff like that. So 3D printing, no matter what form it is, and hopefully you guys, are able to discern what's going to best suit your needs. In my opinion, you probably are going to want one of each because you can do different things with each, but like, this is one of those democratizing technologies that allows people to do really interesting things with
Yeah,
very little. So,
yeah. Good stuff.
well, again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you tuning in this evening. And of
Yeah,
course, we've got the Gundam Explained live show tomorrow. So join us
that's
for
great.
that. Adam, am I missing anything?
No, man, that is it. We've had a show.
Cool. Well, again, thank you for joining me on this one. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Yep. See
Cheers.
ya.